Welcome into House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. And Gilbert, are you still okay with the Rams sitting out everybody after finding out that they will now take on? They clinched the fourth seed now. They're 30-25 loss to the Seahawks. That means they're now the number 4 seed, and will take on the loser of tonight's game between the Vikings and the Lions.
Good question, Victor. And like I always say, scared money don't make money. Don't be afraid of the Vikings or the Detroit Lions. Just be glad you're in the playoffs. I prefer rest and health over being banged up. Do you want to see what happened with Jordan Love? Jordan Love had his elbow banged up. I know he's okay, but you don't want to see it to your star quarterback. Zay Flowers got hurt for the Ravens. So yeah, I get it. Playoff season is important, and it was a little strange that a lot of teams didn't follow the lead of the Rams here. Some teams played their starters like in the opening drive or the second drive. Jaden Daniels took like 2 sacks in the opening drive. I'm like, get him out of there, and they did eventually for Marcus Mariota. So it's always risky. Do you want to see Justin Herbert playing 4 quarters in a meaningless game? Well, it's not meaningless to them because you want the fifth seed and play the Houston Texans because you're afraid of the Ravens. So all of
Yeah.
that, I get it. Playoff seeding is important in the long run. Like say you're playing the sixth seed and you're the fifth seed in the conference title game. Like, are we really gonna look ahead that far? Yeah, right. I prefer being rested, healthy, like Saquon Barkley taking the day off instead of the breaking the record to go into the playoffs now. So I get it. We still don't know what's going on with the Rams here. It's a little annoying that the Rams don't have an opponent just yet, but I think maybe we'll see the results next week when they play the banged up or tired team of the loser tonight, and the Rams are well rested.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I know a lot of Ram fans were pushing for, I'm sure they're late in the second half for the Rams to pull out this win and, get the third seed and perhaps face the Commanders there, who were now locked in as a number 6 seed. But I understand where you're coming from at the same time. I mean, we just got news, Gilbert, that Blake Corum has a fractured forearm and is out for the playoffs. So,
Ooh.
I mean, let's say that was Kyron Williams. I mean, there goes your playoff season. Last year, I think it was no, it was 2 years ago where Mike Williams got hurt for the Chargers playing in Week 18, and they missed him for the first round of the playoffs and they ended up being one and out. So, and you have a home game. You need to rest your guys right now, and we know that this is the approach that Sean McVay likes to do, and I have no problem with it. And I guess at this point now, we just sit and wait and see what happens between these two NFC North the NFC North opponents. But it's crazy now because if you look at how this might set up, you're gonna have to go through the NFC North not only in the first round but also in the second round. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to face these guys anyways. And we talked about how stacked this NFC is. So it doesn't matter whether or not you face the Commanders in the first round. We know how impressive and stacked this NFC is this season.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The Commanders are not on the level of the Vikings and the Lions, but do the Rams want another shot at the Lions? Why not? You came close twice.
Yeah,
Week 1 in the wild card game, you don't want another shot at them. Even Amon Ross Brown saying he's scared of the Rams. Like you could probably play them, and also this time in LA, not in Detroit. Maybe that's better. You're well rested, and then you already beat the Minnesota Vikings earlier this year on Thursday Night Football at your house. And also, Sam Darnold has never played in a playoff game. I think that matters for something. I think he's going to be
yeah,
okay. He's going to be fine. He's not going to be like Russell Wilson on Saturday night against the Bengals, but it's still a playoff game, the first one ever for him. So when
yeah.
you look at it from those both kind of point of views, I think it's okay. And then Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, both pocket passers. Like Jaden Daniels is a mobile quarterback. Do you want to deal with that and game plan for that? So you kind of you got to pick your poison regardless. And I think what you said, Victor, is how about say bring it on NFC North. I didn't like that the Steelers and the Chargers were saying pick us Texans and we want to play you Texans because we're afraid of the Baltimore Ravens. Or I didn't like that the Packers were considering putting Jordan Love back in the game because you don't want to be the 7th seed. Are you afraid of the Philadelphia Eagles? I know it's not all about that, but it's like sometimes just play who's in front of you. You got to go through them eventually. And we'll see how it shakes out. Sometimes the teams that invite that and have good competition, you tend to get good karma. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned, the whole Blake Corum injury, that that could have been Kyrie Williams or somebody else, but also you want Blake Corum there to help you out. So overall, I think it's too soon to say, "Oh, that was a disaster decision by Sean McVay." Like it could pay off next week. By the way, I think the Rams are going to get that Monday night game for the wild card. I'm not sure, but I think ESPN was eyeing that 4-5 matchup, and they're in the fourth seed right now.
Yeah, that's a good call by you too, because I was thinking about that. I was going over it with Megan because I was like, I wonder where the Rams are gonna sit here and when are we gonna record. But yeah, that if that's the case, we'll adjust accordingly. But that means we can record on Thursday. Either way, I think I like the fact of doing the preview on Thursday. I know we've had a lot more of engagement when we do it on the last two Thursdays, so. I
Yeah,
mean,
good
either
point.
way, I think doing the preview show. I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but we're kind of scheduling things here on the fly as well ourselves because we're trying to figure out what's going to happen, with the Rams and their opponent. Because we still don't know. But yeah, that's if it's a Monday night game, and we've heard the stories. I think Dallas has played that Monday night game the last two seasons, and they've kind of complained about it. So because then they have to go on the road. But we'll see. I mean, you gotta that's the schedule now, and this is what you chose rest, which I'm with you. You choose to rest your guys, especially what we saw with Blake Corum breaking his forearm.
Yeah, and then even like the Buccaneers have a tough matchup. The Buccaneers, it's wild to think the Buccaneers were a couple quarters away from not being in the playoffs, but now they
Yeah.
get the spot that people wanted, and that's the number 3 seed playing the Commanders. I'm excited for that game. Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels. So even for that, it's not a gimme. And then say even if if you're trying to like avoid the hard path, say the Commanders beat the Buccaneers. The Commanders will play the number 1 seed, and the Rams still have to play the Philadelphia Eagles in the second round if they get that far. So it's going to be tough teams regardless of what happens here. So I think you shouldn't focus on the matchups here. And yeah, and I know the Commanders and the Packers a little bit of a drop off, but the Packers were tough anyways for the Rams, and like I mentioned with the Commanders, you never know with Jaden Daniels. But yeah, if you get that Monday game, you get an extra day of rest too. Maybe
Hmm.
after that, you start worrying about rust there because that's an extra day, but I don't think that's too much rest there, especially for a veteran quarterback like Matthew Stafford. Cooper Cup is also, up there in age now, so you never know. Maybe they get the Saturday game too, but I'm pretty sure Texans Chargers is
Yep.
penciled in
That'll be
for
the early game.
yeah the
Yeah.
first game. That's
That's the
usually
rule, Gilbert.
yeah,
That's the
with
rule. If the Texans get in, play that early
yeah,
game on
anybody in the
Saturday.
AFC South is gonna get the
Yeah.
first. Like, come on, just
Yep.
be the warm up, the appetizer because you're
Yeah.
in the AFC South. So, it'll be kind of surprising though they put two LA teams on a Saturday. So I doubt it. So I really think it's gonna be a Monday night.
Yeah, I'll be shocked. Out of all the when they put them, I'll be shocked if it's not Texans Chargers the first game we
Oh,
see
it's a
of the
lock.
playoffs.
You can put
It's a
money on
lock, right?
it. Yeah, we'll find out today after Sunday Night Football. Maybe they'll tell us in the. I wonder
Yeah.
if they do like how it's like the schedule. I hate it. I hate the schedule because it leaks throughout the whole day for the NFL schedule. But what if they start leaking playoff games during Sunday Night Football, which they could potentially do?
Why not? I mean, just make it even more intriguing to watch that game. I mean, it is the game 256. Why not give us more stuff to kind of keep locked into this game tonight? And, not just the rest of the nation, but Ram fans as they figure out who's going to be their opponent in round one. But yeah, there's a lot. I do want to take a little bit of time here just to kind of go over our takeaways from this loss, and I just want to mention Joshua Carty. He made two big field goals in this game, 57 and 58 yards. That's really good to see. We talked about the kicking problems for him. And like I said, I think as long as he's inside, he's going to do well. That's part of it as well. Having to kick outside in the rain or in bad weather is always tough. So, good on him. And then Jordan Whittington, man, we need to see more of him going forward. He had a great game in this game, and then seeing Jonah Jackson out there playing right guard was another thing that kind of was something that I wanted to kind of talk about. It's good to see him out there. They paid him a lot of money, but they're going with their core guys, the ones that got him here. So it was just good to see those guys out there.
Yeah, I don't know how much I take away from the Jimmy G performance because part of me is like, yeah, maybe bring him back for another season to be the backup, but I really don't know what's going to happen with Matthew Stafford. What if they want to get younger? We have the whole contract dilemma with Stafford, but that's getting a little ahead. But maybe Jimmy G getting some repetitions right now, just in case. You never know what could happen in the playoffs. I won't even speak about it, but you know what I'm trying to refer to. So from that standpoint, it's okay. But for the future, like you mentioned, Whittington getting some performance maybe for the playoffs too could help out. Or fortunate situation for Blake Corum. He didn't really do much today because of injury. He's never really had a lot of opportunities as a rookie. I don't understand that. But and the other one that you mentioned, Victor, yeah, Jonah Jackson getting some run there. You got to see what you have there because of all the money that he got. Uh, Maybe he'll be useful during maybe game week if they're playing the Detroit Lions, his former team. That'd be interesting to see for that. But yeah, it's just one of those games you kind of just say whatever, get some run there, get some experience. We stay healthy here if you're the LA Rams. And it's weird to see that the Seahawks also have the same record, 10-7. I just saw a tweet from one of the, I think it was Tom Pelissero saying that the Seahawks are the only team that won 10 games this year and not make the playoffs. So
Yeah.
that tiebreaker really helped out the Rams there.
Yeah, and I mean, how huge was that win in overtime against the Seahawks? That I think that was the one that pretty much clinched them for them. But I think had they played their starters, they probably would have won this game, just the way the game went. But also shout out to Mike LaFleur. I thought he called a great game. I mean, Jimmy G was, he was great in the second half, and that had a lot to do with the play calling. And also just tells you, Gilbert. I mean, Jimmy G looked terrible with the Raiders last season. And even, he has not looked good even before that with the 49ers. And then to see him in this game, I mean, just tells you if you're in a good system, uh, you can look good. And, like we said, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold, they all look good because they're in a good system and they're with good offensive coordinators, and that helps a lot too.
Yeah, in the most part, you're playing a lot of Seattle starters too. So for Jimmy G, that was a good look to see. And then also you're playing with a lot of backups and you're playing that well. So yeah,
Yeah.
credit to the play caller and credit to the backups and the young players trying to get a spot here for the Rams for the future. They kept it close, but it was a tough matchup. I want to say last year the 49ers game, that was also a backup game. So it was backup on backup, and this one was backups against starters. So I think it says more here, even though they didn't win the game.
Yeah, I wanted to get to this comment real quick because Deborah kind of stole my answer here, but AMS was asking, are there any running backs and free agents out there? And yes, it's Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott is out there, as Deborah said. Reach out to. I don't know
Mhm.
if I would. Honestly, I like Ronnie Rivers. We'll see if they bring. I don't know what happened to Zach Allen, the other guy that they had, one of the running backs, but I think it's going to be Ronnie Rivers and Kyron Williams in the playoffs. I don't think you need to go and get a veteran guy. I don't know what you think, Gilbert.
Yeah, Zeke is just kind of just a goal line guy, and I
Yeah,
know Kyron Williams is not the biggest dude, but he keeps getting a bunch of touchdowns. Why would you risk putting somebody else in when you already know Kyron is a touchdown machine? But I get it, maybe short yardage situation, maybe 3rd and 1 in the middle of the field. You want a big guy there, but do you want to risk it plugging somebody who's never been on your team with your scheme in a critical spot in a critical game? I wouldn't do it. Just go
yeah.
with who you have right now.
Yeah, Ronnie Rivers is the perfect backup, honestly. We already saw that they rely a lot on Kyron Williams. And so if you just give Ronnie Rivers a couple, and I really like the fact that Ronnie Rivers is a guy who can pick up the blitz. We've seen it numerous times over the last 2 seasons, Gilbert. So I'm okay with giving Ronnie Rivers some of those carries that you would have given to Blake Corum now that he's out with the broken forearm. And I wanted to get to this because I knew we were going to get this comment. I just didn't know who it was going to come from. So thank you, Sir Randolph. He says we gonna talk about how and why Lafleur calls are a more complete game than McVay had the last month. Plus, everyone touched the ball. Also, to his point, this is the first time since that Buffalo game that the Rams scored over 25 points. Gilbert, just
Interesting. Yeah, and again, they're playing the Seattle starters.
yeah,
I know not all the starters were there. It's week 18. You got to get
yeah.
ready for next season, but I'm not gonna go that far.
I know.
When you have Puka Nakua, you want to feed that guy. When you have Kyron Williams to be a touchdown machine, you feed him. So the downside is you haven't seen a different look because it's always going to be Sean McVay, and it's unless it's like week 18 or a preseason game, and you really can't get a good sense of it. I get it. You want to know what's out there, but unless Sean McVay says, okay, you know what, I'm not going to be getting do the play calling this season, or maybe he demotes himself in the future. It's always tough to tell, but Yeah, if I'm Sean McVay, I will also keep feeding Puka Nakua, but I get it. Spreading the football around is difficult, and also, you know, when you have Matthew Stafford, who's been as accomplished as he is as a quarterback, like you can't really tell him what to do all the time. Like it's also on him. He likes to feed people. We saw it with Megatron. We saw it doing Cooper Cup's Triple
Yep.
Crown. We saw it with Puka Nakua. It's not all Sean McVay.
That's a good point. I mean, it's also on Matthew Stafford as well. We've seen, as you mentioned, all the guys that they're going to be in the Hall of Fame because of all, because of Matthew Stafford and him locking into certain guys, and with Megatron and some of the other guys we've seen, Cooper Cup and then Puka Nakua now. Brian Smith says Flores will shut down the Detroit offense tonight, and we're on opposite
Hmm.
sides here. You think the Lions are winning this game. I think the Vikings are winning this game. Let us know. Who do you guys want to see? Do you guys want to see the Lions in the first round, or you want to see the Vikings? Because that's a good. I mean, we talked about this on Hilberto's Hour about why I think the Vikings are winning this game, and then you talked about why you think the Lions are winning this game.
Yeah, you might be right here, Vic, because I've had a dreadful week 18. Like all the quirkiness that of
Yeah,
backups I've gotten wrong. Like I picked the freaking Jaguars and I was invested in that game because we had that as our pick and the Colts won.
the
I think I
Cardinals.
picked.
Did the Cardinals win?
Oh, they blew out the freaking 49ers. They were still
Okay,
going on. I'm like,
okay.
come on.
So
And then
you did finish last in our picks game.
yeah, I'm
Wow.
pretty sure, like, unless I got something else right, but I
Bro.
forgot, and then I thought the Steelers would beat the Bengals, but Russell Wilson had to get in the way. That defense put on a nice performance, but yeah, so it's Victor's night a week, so maybe it will be the Vikings, or maybe I get one right at the end of the week 18 and I get the Lions, but I think the Lions. Man, I know Brian Flores is a good defensive coordinator, and my colleague Connor Orr had a great story on Brian Flores and trying to figure out where he got so good at calling these blitz plays, and also not being afraid to tinker with game plans and not being committed to one thing. We keep saying he's a blitz heavy guy, but he's kind of a game plan per week person. But Jared Goff had good success in the first matchup. They had 30 points in Minnesota. I think that offense is still rolling with Jameer Gibbs. You don't have your closer and your starter and David Montgomery, but I think that just makes them more explosive, a little more dangerous with Jameer Gibbs being the full-time workhorse. The real problem is defense. If Sam Darnold is clicking and you could go toe-to-toe, match for match with Jared Goff, then I think the Vikings win this one. But if you find yourself in a shootout, I think I'm a favor of the Lions here. The Lions here, but it was more of a slow down, complete, defensive minded, and definitely the Vikings win that game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting whether Aaron Glenn changes things up too, like flipping over to the other side, whether he stays with his man-to-man approach or he plays a little bit more of a zone. They do get Alzalone back tonight. He is active, Gilbert, so that'll be something interesting to kind of keep in mind as well, because we've seen Jefferson and Addison have been playing great ball right now. And if you play man-to-man, man, it's going to be a long day for that, or a long night for that Detroit defense. We'll see what happens tonight, but a lot of guys here commenting. Johnny G says Lions will not beat us at SoFi, so I
Mm,
think he's going with the Lions winning tonight.
okay.
Brian is on the other side. He says he wants Minnesota,
Okay.
and then ESG says I am hoping for Minnesota and Detroit to be a long, hard battle. And what is that? A pros game? Who will have to travel across the country to play us? I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's what you've been saying. I mean, you said maybe it's an overtime game. And it's a long day, and then they're having to travel. Now, if it is a Monday night game, like you're saying, then it gives
Mm.
them an extra day to
Oh,
recover.
that's kind of
So
bad.
that
Yeah.
is huge, Gilbert.
Yeah, I guess if you're the schedule makers, you screw over the Rams a little bit to give them one
Yeah.
more game. Do you do them a favor for giving you the ratings on Sunday Night Football and waiting until the last minute and playing this massive game? Maybe they do them a favor. And I think Vikings Lions could get monster ratings where ESPN's like, I want to get Lions Rams or Vikings Rams. We want that on our channel. I could definitely see that too. So that could be a downside. Maybe people get pissed off about that, but I like that the comments are saying nobody's worried about, hey, we wanted the Commanders, or hey, it could have been the 36. So I
Yeah.
think people have moved forward and accepted what the situation is, and if they get an extra day, they get an extra day. But still, the Rams are well rested and then have to play a barn burner in Week 18.
Yeah, and then I was just thinking about this too. The one thing for sure though is this game is going to be on prime time. right? Whether it's Monday night football, Sunday night football, or Saturday night football, it is going to be it's going to be in prime time, and so it's just determining where you want to put them. I think, like you said, and that would be the only disadvantage here that they had is if you go from playing on Sunday night and then you have Rams, Vikings, or Lions on Monday Night Football. Then that kind of makes it a little bit more even for whoever ends up losing this game tonight.
Yeah, for me, I kind of wanted to get it out the way, have it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
But Monday, I don't mind because then it's the only game. It's a standalone game. You focus on that game. For work wise, that'd be pretty easy to cover this Rams game instead of having to worry about a double header or yeah, two double headers, right? No, no, is it two? Yeah,
Well,
two
you
be
get two
yeah,
on
two,
Saturday,
two,
and then you
three,
get three on Sunday,
yeah,
and
two,
then
three,
one on
one.
Monday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would definitely like one game on a Monday night.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, but yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with these with the Rams now. Now they wait and see who they play. Like I said, if you hop on here later on after we're done, let us know who do you want to see, and then, like I said, it's looking like we'll have our preview show for that first round matchup on Thursday. Gilbert, I think it makes the most sense to have it on Thursday. There is no more Thursday night football. So I think it's the best. Let us know if you guys would rather see it on Wednesday or Thursday. But right now we're leaning to a Thursday. And we'll see if we can get a guest on to preview that show. ESG says last year the fourth seed and the fifth seed in the NFC played on Monday. So
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
yeah. They usually get that 4 or 5 game, and it won't be Houston and the Chargers. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it won't be that. I think we can lock it in that Chargers Texans is going to be on Saturday, in the early slot there, like we've seen a lot of the NFC South, no AFC South teams be for the last, what is it, past decade, maybe even more than that.
Yeah, and I think the last 2 Monday night games on ESPN were Buccaneers Cowboys and then Buccaneers Eagles, and those were both 4-5.
Yeah, this is actually a really good question. I wonder if they do because I was expecting John Johnson, and AMS says, do the Rams have another injured reserve spot to put Corum on? Because I know they were trying to wait and see what happened with some of the injuries. And so if they do put Corum on injury reserve, I wonder if they bring back John Johnson because they had not activated him from the injury reserve. So this might be something. I don't know if you needed to do it before the end of the season or he's still eligible to come back from IR. So that is a really good question. I'll try to have that answer, and I'm sure we'll have that answer by when we have our preview show, Gilbert.
Yeah, and if there's pretty much no chance of him coming back, you just do it because you don't want to, kill that spot there. And like you mentioned, there's players that could come back, and you need that spot available. But it's not like Blake Corum was really doing for you much anyway. So
Yeah.
to stash him for maybe if he comes back next week, I guess you could do that. But for a couple weeks or 3 weeks, or maybe you're waiting for the Super Bowl, I don't know if he's worth it for that.
Yeah, and they said he's out for the playoffs. So
There you
I
go.
was just kind of wondering why they didn't just say out for the season. That's my only, you know, I was wondering why it was phrased that way as opposed to out for the season. They said out for the playoffs. So I
Yeah,
don't know
it's
what
probably
that
because they've
means.
moved on from regular season, and
Yeah.
that kinda
Uh,
tells you everything. It's gonna be longer than a month, so that's
Johnny
pretty much
G
it.
says, I just hope our game is not on NBC. Mike Tirico is a huge Rams hater and was annoying calling our last playoff game.
No,
AMS says he wants Detroit. So, I mean, sounds like, it's pretty split between who they want, whether it's the Lions
yeah,
or the Vikings. I'm with you. It doesn't really matter who it is. I know that a lot of people are kind of wanting just to, you want that revenge factor, like the team that kind of put you out last year. You want and also I think to Johnny G's point about how he was about Mike Tirico, I just remember I believe he's from the Detroit area, so that might be
that makes
something to
sense.
do with it. So
Yeah, but you'll
Johnny
probably
G
get Troy Aikman and,
Joe
Joe Buck.
Buck. Yeah. Joe Buck, according to Dodger fans, he is the number one Dodger hater. He's no longer doing baseball, so they don't have
Mm.
to deal with that, but he's not. It just I used to hear it a lot from Dodger fans about Joe Buck and when he was doing baseball. G Baresi says, just happy to be in the playoffs. Rams can beat anyone except Philly.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. That's a good
Yeah.
admission.
Yeah.
I get the Detroit Lions because they're wounded on defense, and maybe you think that you take the chance with the defense there, where maybe Matthew Stafford lights them up a little bit, but it's just like, is it a guarantee? Like I can't wait to see what the Stafford offense does, because they've been so bad the last 3-4 weeks. I
Yeah.
think I did the math, and this they haven't allowed a team to score over 9 points, but also in that span, the Rams have averaged like 14 points per game.
Yeah, they
So
haven't scored. So they're the first team in a 3-game stretch to not only hold opponents under 10 points and win the game without scoring
mm,
over 20 points themselves. So
yeah.
that is like I said, the defense has played well. We saw a bunch of starters also sit. Like I said, there were some guys on defense that made they were already playing well for next season, and some of those guys along that, Bobby Brown. There was a couple of other guys that were Jackson, and I forget the guy's name. I can't say his last name. I forget how you say his name, but there was a couple guys on there along that defensive line that play really well
It, it,
from the backup.
they've played well, but you're not going to hold the
Yeah,
Detroit
no,
Lions to 9 points. And,
no.
so I think even if you're looking from that standpoint, let's not get too carried away. That's still a very explosive offense. So I guess kind of like the same question I'm asking for Sam Darnold. Can Stafford go, shot for shot with Jared Goff? We've seen it with Josh Allen, but it's just we haven't seen it in a month. And the last time I doubted that this team won't appear again, this offense won't come back, they beat Josh Allen. So I'm not going to go far to say they're not coming back. We know they're there. We saw them beat the Vikings. They beat the 49ers by a bunch of injured players. They beat also Josh Allen. So I'm not going to go and say this team's on a milk cart and we're not going to find this offense ever again. But it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, this was the first time they score over 25 points since that Buffalo game.
Mm,
ESG says there's two reasons I want Detroit. One is revenge. Number two is that they're banged up on defense.
yeah.
G Barisi says, other than Corum, were there any other injuries? The only one I was kind of concerned about coming into this game was Demarcus Robinson, just because he hasn't looked good since that shoulder injury against the Bills. But he looked good today, so I would assume he's good to go for the first round as well. And then the other one is Rob Havenstein. I think he'll be good to go. He's had 2 weeks off, so as long as he doesn't, as long as he doesn't get injured in the first round, he should be good. He should be good. Johnny G says Buck is from St. Louis. He also hates us. So yeah. Uh, Gibarisi says, "Oh, Johnson played well." Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that play really well, honestly. For and they put their names out there for next season. I mean, there's a lot of talent on this Rams team. And then last one here, ESG says, unlike Darno and Daniels, is not as mobile. So, yeah. Uh, and then he's got Gibarisi says, "Got to go. Great show, gents. Have a great week. You too, G."
Thank you.
We'll see. Hopefully you can join us for the preview show. I think at this point it's going to be on Thursday, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Gilbert, just give me your final thoughts in terms of what you were expecting here from this Rams team. I know you kind of went a little bit into it with the fact that they hadn't scored over 20 points in the last 3 games, but there's a lot to like. They're going to be at home, whoever it is from the NFC North, whether it's the Vikings or the Lions here.
Yeah, I'm going to look at the positive side, and I know that that's not a trait of mine, but I know they're capable of turning it on. When you turn it on against Josh Allen, and it's one of the best offensive performances I saw all year from anybody, with Puka Nacua, Cooper Cup, Kyron Williams, you got Sean McVay. If it's Detroit, you got that. If it's Minnesota, you got that. I think the Minnesota defense will be a little tougher because Brian Flores to turn it on, but this is not a young quarterback that can't figure out Brian Flores. This is a Matthew Stafford. He knows how to figure it out. He figured it out. I think it was week 8. I forget what week that was of Thursday Night Football. So they're in a good spot. Yeah, it's not the Commanders, but regardless, like I keep mentioning, they're well rested. They're at home. They're not the Houston Texans, who are at home number 4 seed, well rested too. This is the LA Rams who got Super Bowl experience, who've done a lot, even this year and last season. So enjoy the game. Let's see what happens. Watch 2 teams beat up each other, and then welcome them to SoFi Stadium either Monday, or most likely Monday. We could just might as well say that.
Yeah, I think that's what it's looking like. I think it's going to be Monday Night Football, especially with the fact that the last 2 seasons it's been the 4 and 5 seed, and like we said, it's there's no way they're going to put Texans and Chargers on Monday Night Football,
Mm-mm.
and because of these 14-3 team going up against the Rams at SoFi in LA, that's a prime time game, or however way you want to slice it. But yeah, I can't wait now. 10-7. The Rams win the division. And now they get ready for their the playoff game for a playoff game for the second straight season. This time they get to host it, and they just feel like a different team, Gilbert, than the one we saw last season. Um, they feel like they're a little bit more complete in all three phases. They're a little bit better in all
Yeah.
three phases, and we can say that because last year's team, it was just the offense, and then the defense and the special teams was really bad. So at least they go in with a better at all three phases outside of the offense. The offense has struggled a little bit this season, so maybe that's the winning combination is your defense and your special teams, and then just getting enough out of your offense to be able to go and win a game in the first round against either the Lions or the Vikings. So, hey, the real season starts now, and I just want to shout out Delbert because he says thanks, compas, for your efforts through the season. Now wipe the slate clean as they enter the playoffs. Bring them on. The journey continues por el cuerno. So the well put there, and I think that's a good way to go into the first round of the playoffs. Like I said, we'll be back on Thursday most likely, but just check in and we'll post whenever we'll post it up. Gilbert will put up the time of when we're gonna record either on Wednesday and Thursday. But like I said, as of right now, especially if like Gilbert says, it's looking like it's going to be on Monday Night Football on ESPN and slash ABC. We'll do the show on Thursday.
Yeah, yeah, we'll figure it out and we'll find out tonight. But yeah, let's see how it plays out here. And finally, some playoff football. I feel like for a long time we kept talking about matchups and scenarios and playoff seeding. Who cares? Just let us know who wins Vikings and Lions, and we'll be
Yeah.
ready.
Yep. We're ready to go now. We're well rested, just like the Rams going into the first round of the playoffs, Gilbert. So let's get to it, and can't wait. I mean, it'll be a good preview show. So make sure you join us on Thursday.
Yeah, so let's get out of here. Enjoy the showdown. Get your popcorn and watch these teams beat each other up for the next 4 quarters. But it's time to get going. Ya nos vamos, pues. Vámonos.